Hola, chica. I'm kind of digging the little daily videos. It's kind of fun. Like I'm talking to you without talking to you, but you're receiving it either or. But and so we're still getting together the format and things. We're going to find a good flow. We're getting there, day at a time. But before I say what I was going to say today, I want to kind of preface and kind of remind if we weren't on the same page with it, but that the basis, the idea, the framework that I come from and studying this stuff is very scientific. And it even stems back from my approach for it with nutrition. It's like I wanted to know the facts. Like, what are the studies? Why does what we do? Why does what we put into our body affect us? What is happening on a cellular level? And so the same thing kind of approaching with this subject and wanting to know, why are we told to meditate? Why are we told to visualize? Why are we told to do these things? And what started to notice is that what science was proving in like the quantum physics, where we talked about that's the quantum field and the net of possibilities of which all things create from, you start to see in the spiritual texts, like the Vedas, the Hindu scriptures, start to talk about the vibratory force that underlies everything. And then you see things in more the Christian texts as well that are saying things like the happy without a vision the people perish, and that we need a vision inside of our mind. And the notion from science stating that what we resonate at, the frequency we are emitting, harmonizes with the other the like frequencies in that quantum field. And so then you see things with the in biblical text saying like, as you believe, so shall it be unto you, kind of things. I kind of said that messed up, but you get it. And so starting to see that the parallels between the science and religion, they're one and the same, just coming from a different angle. So with that said, what I want to just touch on today was kind of the notion of imagination and the importance of that and why the meditation will open up for that. So we talked about so we have this little guy again. It looks like a little cell going through space or something. I don't know. I guess that is kind of what's going on. It's like us just going through space. We're in space right now. Like, what is this? This is space. Crazy. But so we talked about this and how we're in an infinite sea of thought. And our conscious mind has the ability to accept or reject any thought that comes into our experience. And if we are not conscious of it, it is just getting impressed into our subconscious mind. And that is where our self-image, that is where our behavior, which ultimately determines this little dot, our physical self and our actions, determines how we act and how we behave and experience life. So an important thing to note is that the conscious mind has the ability to perceive externally or create. We can see things in our mind. Like you can be watching me right now and you can imagine me with a sombrero on my head. Like it's not physically there, but you see it mentally, spiritually, you see that. And so that vision is still real to you from your perspective. So the important thing to note here is that we can create anything within our realms of ability to perceive in our imagination. We can imagine anything, and the subconscious mind doesn't know if what we're imagining is real or not. It just takes in the information. And so why it's important, and what we're going to get with that, is that we're not only in a sea of thought wave, but we can also imagine that we are also constantly emitting thoughts. So we are not only receiving, but we are transmitting as well. So, and that's when it goes back into the notion. I kind of scribbled on this a little more, but you remember this. One of the pens was going dry, so I scribbled. But bliss and to fear, that range. And so every point in time, what is the emission that we are kind of putting out? So it's not only the receiving, which is because they're simultaneous. You can't escape one from the other. So we're always emitting and receiving. And so what this has to do with imagination is because imagination, in a sense, is you, is your reality, is your ability to perceive, is your perception. Because whether or not what you are paying attention to is done in your imagination, where do you think in your imagination? If I tell you to picture your car, where do you see it? In your imagination. This is kind of the, so side note, but it's going to tie right back into it. So you may be familiar with the Dark Ages in our history. And that was a time where they essentially were burning books, hiding information. And what were they hiding? Stuff like this. And we are fortunate enough to be able to talk about it openly, but because of the hunger of power that was around at the time, they hid this information. And what the main thing where you hear the term clairvoyance, that was created during that time to hide what they were talking about, which is the imaginative power. And this is literally the truth that will set you free. When you understand that your imagination is the creative force, it is the preemptive force that allows for your existence. And so your imagination is always doing something. Are you imagining a life that you want? Are you imagining goodness, or are you imagining destruction, and you are letting what you see around you dictate how you use your imagination? So that's the point that we want to have with meditation, to be able to become more aware of not only our physical environment and physical self, but what is our imagination doing? That's why we want to start to practice calming the mind. We want to just start to practice that awareness of what are the thoughts I'm thinking? Because this thought is dictating my life. This moment, this now, this ever-present now is dictating our future existence. And so we want to be aware of what we are paying attention to and how we are using our imagination. So that, again, imagination is you. You are your imagination. Just like you can imagine how you want to be and then you can be that, you have to imagine it first. You have to see it in your mind first. And when we don't have a vision for ourselves, when we don't have something within that lights us up, that's when we do start to find a kind of downward shift, because we're just being victims to the surroundings. We're letting the surrounding environment determine who and what we are, which is kind of, it can sometimes be challenging, if, especially on this scale, if we're in a lowly space, it can be hard to really use our imagination, which is why meditation is the groundwork. And imagination, true creative imagination, is an aspect of meditation, because it all comes in all the scriptures and text will tell you this as well, that from the void, all things emerge. And so when we can find the void in our mind, when we can find that clean, empty slates, that's when the creative imagination is most powerful, because we can step in to that state. We can be one with our imagination, and that is kind of the track that pulls us to that in the outer world. So when doing the meditations, and I kind of started hinting at of just being aware of yourself, really, even outside of the meditation, I'm going to suggest to be more aware of how am I using my imagination. And at first, and just like any practice of meditation, it can kind of make you a little stir crazy, but as frequently as you can ask yourself throughout the day, how am I using my imagination? Am I pointing it up or am I pointing it down? Because your flashlight is going one way. Your attention, your focus, your directed will is going one way. So which way is it going? And because of our willpower, what we are focusing on, we are instantly receiving too. So wherever we point it, that's what's coming towards us. So we are with these two again. So just thinking about that. Wherever this is. Wherever this emits, this receives. And when we can calm our mind, we can receive the goodness that we want. So that's part of the practice with meditation. And so I'm going to have a couple more suggestions beyond of just to get the imagination flowing and to allow ourselves to kind of start to cultivate more of an inner vision. But that is the basis of what I want to talk about imagination, because that is long-term. We can do so much with it because that is us, and we just have to be able to peel the layers, get into the depths of ourselves, get rid of the baggage and the falsities of who we think we are and what we are, so we can start to get back to that purity and that power of imagination. I hope once again this is helpful, and I hope you're enjoying the daily videos too, because I'm with it. I'm feeling good about it, and each one I'm feeling like we're getting closer and closer. So Cheers to that. Talk to you soon.